Moriori remained undisturbed on the Chatham Islands until 1791. You lived such a peaceful, non-violent life. Your way of life was turned upside down, and by the 1830s, we heard of how many had been killed and how many had been enslaved. For me to read about how in the 1840s you wrote letters, you submitted petitions asking for the government to stop the enslavement, to award you back your land, and it was all ignored. When hundreds of your people have been killed and enslaved, and you are being ignored, I commend you for spending this amount of time to push so hard for the recognition that you do deserve. Even after the Chatham Islands, their kohu, became a part of New Zealand Aotearoa in 1842, you were still enslaved, you were still ignored. And in the 1870s, when you did get some redress, it really just wasn't good enough. The outcomes of that redress were not good enough. Most of your land had been lost, the numbers of Moriori had deteriorated, and many had left the Chatham Islands. By the early 1900s, it shows that it was just an untenable place to be, and an untenable situation to be in. You were losing your historical references, you were losing the language, and you were losing your people. I am one of those that were brought up in the education system at school, where I was told that Moriori no longer existed, where I was told that the effects of the people were nothing that we needed to be worried about or concerned. But I will tell you that by the time I got to college, that had been corrected. And at college, I was told Moriori did exist and that they were treated badly, both by Māori and by Pākehā. So I want you to know that while I grew up with a school journal, I was taught by my Māori teacher at Sacred Heart College that that was not indeed the way or the truth. By the 1970s, you looked to rebuild your culture, your heritage, your language, and your identity. When I read of the deaths from deep despair, I recognise that that is the harsh realities of ill treatment. And I am not surprised when you hear of a people who founded their entire being on peace, on love, on unity and non-violence, to be treated in such a way and not recognised. To hear of the deaths by despair is saddening, because it never should have occurred. But you here, you have fought hard. You fought with determination, with effort, with bravery and with courage to make sure that none of those deaths have gone unnoticed, because they will be recorded forever here in our legislation. The island that you have is beautiful. Just, it's so magic to be there. And so from my heart, I do feel the pain that you must have been feeling as the ancestors of Rongo Whenua for the actions that have occurred to you since the 1800s. The ACT parties support the first reading of this bill. This bill acknowledges the loss of respect, the loss of dignity, the loss of property and land rights in the displaced sector of New Zealand's history. ACT supports the righting of the wrongs by returning the rights to the Moriori. Kia ora.